You have to start somewhere. They say perfection is the enemy of progress, but what they don't tell you is that it's also the quietest form of fear. What if it's not good enough? What if the timing isn't right? What if everything falls apart? We spend days, weeks, even years waiting for the perfect moment, building walls from our what ifs and maybes, and sometimes life forces you to begin again. But maybe that's the point, because starting somewhere isn't about having everything figured out. It's about having the courage to take that first step, even if it makes you nervous. It's about choosing progress over perfection, movement over masterpiece, today over someday. So this is me, starting somewhere, starting now. And maybe that's exactly where I'm supposed to be. So welcome to my first video of 2025. I feel like with YouTube specifically, I'm always waiting for like the perfect moment or the perfect strategy or the perfect time. And it's like, honestly, there's no such thing as a perfect time. And this year, one of my main goals is to really get rid of the procrastination, okay? Because sometimes overthinking, especially as it relates to content, is just really an excuse to not start something. And I kind of had to learn that the hard way, y'all, because tell me why my 5 terabyte hard drive, which is basically 5,000 gigabytes, I had so many unedited projects on there. I had so much footage that I had just moved over there that I hadn't even got to look into. And one day I wanted to go ahead and edit in bed. I brought my laptop over, the hard drive fell. Long story short, I had to send it to the shop. Y'all, I have my birthday vlog on there, and mind you, it's January now. My birthday was in June. This birthday vlog I've literally been working on for the past 6 months, and I finally was about to be done with it. I cut it down from 3 hours to 30 minutes, and then my hard drive crashed. And if anything, it's made me realize that like perfectionism is definitely just another form of procrastination. One of my goals for content this year is to really hone in on the art of storytelling, especially as it relates to my YouTube content. So let me know how y'all felt about that little intro or whatever, but that's really what sparked today's video. And I don't know, I feel like I kind of find that sometimes, especially like now that I'm more used to creating specifically like on TikTok more, where it's kind of that like instant gratification, or it's like you could just use a trending sound, and it's kind of felt that a lot of the time last year I was kind of just churning out content just to churn it out, or it's like I would film content but then not necessarily like have a story behind it, but like it was good quality as far as the visuals, and I just kind of went with it. But this year, I kind of really want to take a step back to actually just be more intentional about what it is that I'm putting out, and not necessarily feel like I have to like chase the algorithm. So I feel like I'm kind of in that state where I'm focusing on having more quality content over quantity. Like my goal is really to create content that breathes, content that inspires, content that flows. And it's funny because sometimes I'll put something out that like, to me, it was so rushed. To me, it really didn't have like a purpose or a vision or like intention behind it. And people are like, wow, this is amazing. I love this. And I'm like, y'all not even ready, because just wait till I get into my bag for real. And speaking of getting into my bag for real, let me just show y'all something. I'm used to having a vision board where it's like made out of pictures from the magazine and whatnot, but shout out to my friend Julie, because she hosted us for a vision board party where I was able to really just, you know, print out pictures specifically that spoke more to me. So I went on Pinterest to be able to find everything. There's just something about having the pictures out, and like this is something that I actually want to hang up in my space, that seeing this is making me realize that it's like sometimes you need to visualize the thing to make sure that it's like in your mind, at the top of your mind, that it's going to happen. And one of those things that I put here, I'm gonna speak it out into the universe, and I know that it's going to come true, but it's to get monetized on YouTube, okay? And specifically with YouTube, I feel like, again, it's easier for me to churn out content for TikTok. It's easier for me to churn out content for Instagram. But for some reason, it's like YouTube, I just kind of take more serious in a sense, so I kind of like hold back. But one thing about it, it's like, listen, this past year has taught me that I am no stranger to doing hard things, especially as it relates to my self-portrait challenge. So if you're new here, I just completed a 52-week self-portrait series, and this was really sparked from a time where I was just feeling so burnt out from creating content from brands, creating content for my photography clients, and just creating content that I felt was just like rushed. It didn't really speak to me. And it just felt like, honestly, I was just tired of picking up the camera. I didn't feel inspired. I felt burnt out. I felt overwhelmed. I just didn't have that creative bone in me, that creative drive, that creative fire. So I took some time, a few weeks last December, between January, where I just didn't do anything, or I didn't put pressure on myself to be out there to post. But from there, it was when my mind was able to be freed that I was able to come up with the idea of a self-portrait series. And through that, you guys, like, I cannot recommend doing something like an artistic journey, an artistic challenge enough, because it changed my life for the better. It's actually insane that I was able to stick with something for an entire 52 weeks straight. Like, what? Like, each and every week I was able to challenge myself to come up with a new concept, to shoot it, to post it on Sunday. And sometimes, you know, I did post on a Monday a few times. I did post late Sunday night. But the fact is that, like, I stuck with it, and it was not easy, okay? It wasn't easy, but it was fun. It was exhilarating. It was a challenge. It was a way to just challenge myself creatively. And it's like, through that, I was able to build so much discipline. I was able to build so much, like, mental toughness. And honestly, I was able to know that deep down, I always knew that it's like I could do something like this. But it's like I always thought, or always had that mindset that it's like, oh, well, you'll probably end up quitting. But it was at a certain point, I want to say probably by like week 20, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, once people started like recognizing me for it and being like, oh, can't wait till next Sunday, can't wait till next Sunday, I'm like, oh, I can't quit, huh? And just from there, it was like, wow, like, this is something that I'm able to help others to feel inspired. I'm able to help others realize that they can do these hard things as well too. And honestly, completing that challenge, and just as I went through it, it really just taught me so much about discipline. It taught me so much about motivation, because trust me, there were some weeks where I didn't have it in me, but I told myself, and I knew deep down, I'm like, listen, you promised yourself that you're gonna stick to this series. It doesn't matter if you don't feel like it, you're gonna put something out there. And I think that even in that sense, I was able to kind of stop chasing that perfectionism, right? I was kind of able to stop with the procrastination, and just knowing that it's like, no matter what, you could not put out any other content this week, but come Sunday, you better make sure that you upload that self-portrait. And so the discipline wasn't just only in the art that I created, but it was more so in like how I showed up to and approached challenges in general. Through this, I was able to really realize that it's like, wow, like, you can do hard things, and they weren't as scary anymore. And speaking of things not being as scary anymore, I want to share something personal. So last year was my first full year where I was no longer in therapy, and I had to face the world, and on my own, but equipped with the tools and resources that I had learned during my therapy practice, which was great, right? Being able to actually actively use the things that I learned, which I learned so much, but being able to use those things to propel myself forward, to like actually be met with said challenges, and to choose to do better with life. There's just always going to be a new level that you're trying to get to. There's just always going to be new challenges that arise. And one thing that I didn't do last year that I'm reincorporating back into my like daily routines, my daily habits, is reading self-help books. Yes, I hate to be the one to tell you, but sometimes you gotta pick them books up, okay? I think that there was a part of me that kind of ran from the self-help books just because I was like, oh, like, I'm not a project. I don't need to do this. I don't need to do that, which is true. Yes, you're not a project. However, there are certain blind spots that everyone has. There are certain things that you realize that it's like you do want to get better in certain areas. And while you can have other resources, so for me, that wasn't looking like going to therapy again in a sense, but more so like, again, using those tools that I had. I'm realizing this year that it's okay to want to get better. It's okay to want to use like self-help books to literally just improve your life. Like, and I am of the mindset that it's like, it's not going to hurt you, right? And if it is, of course, like, take a break if you need to. And for me, that was more so what last year was for, right? Being able to be like, okay, like, let me see what it's like on my own. But now that I've already started reading one book where it's called Detox Your Thoughts, and guys, when I tell you, like, there's so much that I've been reminded of in this book that it's like I needed to actually see it down, see it written down, and to read it and to realize these things, that it's like I'm so happy that I decided that, you know, like this is a step that I need to take, and I'm not ashamed to be able to work on myself, right? Like I'm not ashamed to admit that sometimes I don't know it all, and that sometimes it's okay to seek help. So I want to encourage you, whether that's in going to therapy or whether that's picking up some self-help books, to just take whatever it is that you need to become the best version of yourself. Because listen, there's something powerful about recognizing that you do need help. There's something powerful about recognizing that it's like, hey, like I'm able to change my life at any point in time. And I don't know about you, but for me, like there's no holding back for me this year. There's no holding back, period. But just this year forward, like I don't know, like there's something in the air that's telling me like this is my season. Like Issa Rae said, this is me season.
I don't know what to say. It's feeling like me season.
Nah, y'all don't understand. This is me season for real. And speaking of growth, let me tell you guys right now, I'm currently on a 21-day fast with my church. And this is actually going to be the longest fast that I've like ever done in life. And while it's been amazing spiritually, I'm also just reaping so many benefits, specifically as it relates to my digital detox portion. Because I really did pray on it. I'm like, God, like, do you want me to like stop posting on like Instagram or like social media during this time? And I just didn't hear anything back on that. But what I did hear was that I need to stop mindlessly scrolling. And it's something that sounds so simple, but when I tell you that it has made such a big change just in my like day-to-day, like my anxiety, just my mental clarity. Because listen, y'all, like I know I'm not the only one. It came to a point where like I was on TikTok in the shower. Yes, I will admit it. I would be cooking on TikTok. I would be cleaning and on TikTok. Like, why am I at the gym and instead of listening to music, I'm scrolling on TikTok? Like, it got to a certain point where I realized, like, okay, like, this is actually a problem, because sometimes it's like, yeah, you're using it to fill the time, but it's like, it's good to just give your brain a break. And I specifically have been like limiting my screen time and just being more intentional when it's like, okay, if I am gonna go on TikTok, it's gonna be for an allotted amount of time, and it's gonna be at this certain point, and it's not gonna be while I'm working on something. And right now I haven't even reached up to a week yet, but when I tell you like this is a practice that I'm already seeing that it's like, yeah, like I need to continue living like this. Like I need to go ahead and be able to touch some grass. And you really don't realize how attached you are to something until you take a step back. And another one of those areas that I'm hitting on in my fast is food, y'all. Because listen, one thing about me, I feel like food has definitely been just a coping mechanism for me. Food has been, I'm bored, so I'm gonna eat. Food had been, I'm tired, so I'm gonna eat. Food has been, I just remembered I have a slice of cake in the fridge, so I'm gonna eat it. So I have been intermittent fasting as part of my fast as well too. And I have done intermittent fasting in the past before where I was able to be like, oh, well, I don't really have an appetite, so it just works out. But no, this fast is fasting, okay? I think that especially since I'm leading a more active lifestyle now, it has been a little bit tougher, but it's made the reward that much better because in tandem, I'm also eating much cleaner now as well too. So when I am replenishing my body, once that clock strikes 12 p.m., like I have a healthy meal that's already prepared, and I'm realizing that I'm like, you know what, like, I didn't necessarily like need all that unhealthy food that I was eating. Because mind you, I ate relatively healthy before, but my biggest issue has always been around portion control and around, again, just snacking just because. So it's like I was eating healthy in the past again, but of course I would have my like binge days or like takeout meals, etc. And that's also another thing, but we'll get to that. But it was really something that I'm realizing that I'm like, whoa, like I'm not as attached to food as I once was like this time a week ago. And again, I'm realizing that it's like I'm above having certain things in my life control me, right? So whether that's in procrastination or whether that's in binge eating or whether that's in just scrolling endlessly and mindlessly, I'm really realizing that it's like I have the power to just cut things loose, okay? And again, now that I am in this fasting period, I think that it's made it, the fact that it's attached to me spiritually, like, and actually just praying through these things and realizing that it's like, There's nothing that God cannot absolve me of, and knowing that I have that power within me and I have that power to be able to connect to a higher power to walk through all of this together with has really just given me a newfound sense of peace, a newfound sense of growth, a newfound sense of inspiration. So for 2025, I'm not just setting goals, but I'm having this mindset shift where I'm really realizing that everything is possible. Everything is possible. Like, just say it with me, believe it, repeat it to yourself. Everything and anything is possible. So whether it's a project, a goal, a dream that you have, whether it's messy, whether it's imperfect, that is okay, all right? Because in 2025, we're not chasing perfectionism. We're not waiting on the perfect moment to start because, spoiler alert, there is no perfect moment. So take this as your sign to start now, to start messy, to start imperfectly. But the main thing is that you should just start. And if you want to join me on this journey of us figuring it out together, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because I promise y'all gonna be seeing a lot of me this year. So here's to starting somewhere, here's to 2025, and here we go.